Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what happened today. Pretty big day in the markets. Obviously, we had JPow today. We had him talking. We had the 25 basis points cut, etc. So yeah, let's go into it. Let's talk about what we can expect for the remainder of the week, and I'll give you my thoughts. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But again, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, etc., well, again, guys, I do have that private YouTube membership where, again, I share all my thoughts, post updates every single day as the market is trading. So definitely check that out. That link is down below in the description of the video. Just click this bad boy here, and you get access to all my post updates, technical analysis, etc., on Tesla stock, different time frames, right? Options flow, and the broader market as well. So SPY, QQ, VIX, things like that. $5 includes NVDA as well, or $7 USD a month includes the whole package. Access to my tier 3 posts that are essentially other stocks that are essentially not Tesla, not NVIDIA, and access to my private Discord where I share my thoughts, posts. Access to my private Discord where we have a tier 3 membership chat room, and I do chart reviews that members request every Sunday. But yeah, jumping into it, Tesla. Closing the day up actually 1.5%, we'll say, closing at $451.43. So interesting situation to be in, right? I mean, obviously the market's, overall reacting fairly positively to data JPow. Now, the question to me is also going to be how tomorrow goes, because sometimes the quote unquote real move occurs the day after, right? Now, that's not to say it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, bearish or bullish, but sometimes you can still get some, I guess, the volatility sort of leaks into the next or the following day. In this case, obviously, usually it's a Thursday, since these, press conferences for JPow are usually on Wednesdays. So that's going to be something to watch for moving forward, guys. That's going to be definitely something to watch for moving forward. Now, Tesla stock though, right? How is this setting up? Well, like I said, we were setting up this kind of, bullish pennant, bullish flag type pattern. And so far, we actually broke out a little bit prematurely, right? A little bit earlier than expected. But this is why I always say, whenever you're setting up a pattern, here, let me just quickly do a quick little TA 101. If you're setting up a pattern that looks something like this, like a bull flag, right? So in other words, price is zigzagging up and then it's zigzagging down like this, kind of like a bull flag, if you will, pennant, whatever, doesn't matter. Because the thing is, it can be like this, or it can zigzag like this and then go sideways like this, right? Here, let me show you a better example. Kind of like this, and then it kind of starts going sideways violently, and then it kind of consolidates, right? That's kind of a pennant. This is more of a flag. Or you can have same thing, but it's instead of a flag, it's a wedge when it gets tighter, whatever. It doesn't really matter. What really matters, and this is kind of why I always mention, is the top trend line, right? You have the bottom trend lines just kind of as, guidance, I guess you can say. But in these kind of scenarios, it's the top trend line that actually matters, because that's the breakout level, right? The bottom one could be different, so many different things, right? It doesn't really matter as much in my opinion. The top one is the one that matters, which is this one up here. So this is just something important to understand moving forward. And the same thing is true for when you're doing the opposite, and price is doing something like this. It's the bottom one that matters, right? So essentially the opposite of the trend, if that makes sense, sort of, right? So again, if you're going overall up and the trend is up, and then you're consolidating downwards though, then the upper trend line matters, vice versa. Anyway, that's got a quick little TA 101, I guess. But again, the reason that matters is, and the reason that's important is because you're not always going to get a perfect touch point of the bottom trend lines, right? Sometimes you get something like this. Sometimes maybe you'll get another touch point and it plays out beautifully. Textbooks like. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't go all the way to the bottom, or maybe it goes a little bit past the bottom trend line, or a little bit of, it's not perfect. But once we see this upper trend line breaking, which so far we are, so now obviously I'll tell you what I want to see moving forward. But as long as, we see these kind of breakouts happening, sometimes they'll happen sooner, sometimes they'll take longer. But this is the main thing that you want to watch for. You want to wait for price to break above that trend line, the upper trend line, the one that's descending from the upper part of the price, right? That's important to understand. But now that we officially have broken past that, this is obviously a very, very good sign. What do I want to see next for Tesla stock to continue being bullish? Because this has obviously bullish implications. Now, is it guaranteed bullish? Is Tesla 120% guaranteed to head up higher from here, for sure? No, of course not. Anything can still happen. It could be a false breakouts, right? So let's go over the things I don't want to see. The things I do not want to see is there's two levels that I don't want Tesla to start breaking back under. The first level, which give me a small warning sign, is essentially the low of this second last 1 hour candle, which at the moment is sitting at about 446.5 ish. That's the level I don't want to see Tesla get back below, and that'd be a bit of a warning sign. A bit of a warning sign. Depending on when it happens, that could just be a quick little retest of this trend line breakout. Whatever we had higher from there, that's fine. But that's a warning sign. To me, where I really start getting concerned, I guess, that this is potentially just a false breakout, which can happen. You also have to be ready for that. False breakouts happen all the time. Is essentially a loss of about 443.5. Pretty much this low back here that we held pretty nicely for the majority of today, really, right? Losing that would be a concern. We should not be losing that. If we start losing that range, that would be not something that I would want to see. And that would start making me question the overall strength of this potential breakout that is setting up. So watch for those two levels. Breaking below those, especially the second one, not what you want to be seeing from Tesla stock. Assuming this strength, which so far looks pretty good, but assuming this is actual real bullish strength, you definitely do not want to be seeing price action getting down below those levels. Now, from the more bullish perspective, what do I want to see now for bullish, either maybe confirmation, continuation, things like that? Well, you can kind of see the arrow right here for the most part, right? And I already told my members about this actually as we were breaking out. Let me go ahead and find that post. I think it was right around here. I already told them that this is going to most likely, retrace back down to about 450. You can see before it even started. So, hey, join up the group, guys. But, we are kind of doing that, which is fine, right? This is fine. This is nothing wrong with this. This is a nice cool offer right here from, a little bit of a quick, fast, extended breakout, which is perfectly normal. We got a little bit ahead of ourselves. Now we're sort of, fixing that, if you will, that sort of quote unquote mistake, if you will. So this is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with this, right? But I do want to see Tesla that, if it does continue going a little bit lower, which it can, absolutely. We can still see 449 to 450. Absolutely. Right. Another couple dollars lower for sure. But, that'll just be, in my opinion, a retest of the trend line breakout, which is good. That'll be retesting the 9 exponential moving average, which is good. Kind of like what we did here. You can see nice, very aggressive move, came back, retested the 9 EMA, went higher. Kind of the same thing as that, right? Something similar to that, right? That's what I'll be looking for on Tesla stock moving forward, right? So again, that's kind of what I want to see. I want to see this pullback if it continues lower, which, it absolutely could. I want to see this pullback start finding buyers around 449 to 450, somewhere around that $1 to $2 or so range. That's my kind of bullish perspective situation that I'd want to be looking for on Tesla stock. So let's continue monitoring that. But assuming this all holds, assuming this is an actual nice bullish breakout, which so far it seems to be the case, then on the daily, watch for that 9 exponential moving average, which is that green line, to kind of hug price higher slowly but surely. But my main targets to the upside will be, the first level will be about the mid to maybe high 460s, which is obviously an area you found substantial resistance. Or, and this is if the market really tries to be, I don't know, mean, I guess you can say, because this is why the market can get very complicated when you start talking about sweeps, right? When you start talking about liquidity grabs, traps, whatever. The mean thing to do for the market would be a push back above, closer to the high 470s, maybe even the low 480s, right? Getting damn close to that all-time high retest, right? This would be the mean thing to do if we get something like that and then reverse from there. That would be very, very mean, because then this would just be a massive liquidity sweep, and that would be very, very bearish. That's something you definitely do not want to see. So, whether or not we get that is obviously too early to say. I can't tell you for sure it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. I have no idea, right? We have to just wait. Price action will let us know slowly, but surely. That's kind of how these things go, right? Ultimately. So that is important to understand, but that is something that's going to be the kind of mean route, right? So, if we do make our way up here, the bulls, what they want to do is essentially turn this area back into support, because if we get up here and we start turning this area back into support, fail to do that, and then break down below it and turn it into a resistance, that is kind of like arguably worst case scenario. That's not what you want to be seeing. We want to see essentially not that. We want to see strength. We want to see continued strength and pushing higher overall, riding the exponential moving averages, things like that, right? Very simple, but very important things like that. But all in all, my target to the upside for now, Tesla stock, about mid 460s to as high as potentially almost $480 per share. Those are my 2 targets to the upside, assuming this bullish breakout seems true, which, like I said, I already gave you my key levels to watch out for on the 1 hour chart. I said the levels I don't want to see lost, and essentially the levels I want to see held and bounced from. So hopefully that all makes sense. But that's kind of the way I'll be seeing that. How is Intel doing, actually? I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of watching Intel. Intel's setting up pretty nicely. But in case you're wondering why some of the oh man, I was actually eyeballing this talk about earnings. I don't want to play earnings, man. 13%. Oof. In case you're wondering why some stocks are kind of dropping after hours, like NVDA, AMD. Well, it's Oracle, man. Oracle has been quite the not a great child of the semis, if you will, or in that rough space, if you will. Down 6% on earnings, in case you're wondering. But nonetheless, so that's kind of the way I'll be looking at Tesla stock. Now let's go to the broader market very quickly, right? SPY and Qs. Let's start with Qs actually. Qs looking pretty solid, right? Nice breakout. We ended up coming right back into that 9 exponential moving average, bounced right off of that, held it for 2 days in a row, and arguably are breaking out, right? We are arguably getting a pretty decent looking breakout over here on the Qs, which is good to see. Now, obviously, the first target to the upside will be about 632, which is of course this gap fill right around here. But overall, this is looking like a pretty nice bullish breakout. Now, what we don't want to see on the Qs is a breakout like this and then heading back lower and really starting to lose about $620 per share. That's what we don't want to start seeing on the Qs. As long as we don't see that, and as long as the Qs still continue looking bullish as they have been, That's looking pretty good. I think the bulls are continuing to have some pretty decent control. SPY, a little bit stronger than the Qs, looking pretty decent, coming up to the recent all-time highs. Now, there's a few things that I definitely am going to be watching. Now, you're going to see a lot of bears talking about this being a double top, and there is, of course, technically a possibility of that, but I think we'll break all-time highs. I do think that we will break all-time highs. I think we will see fresh all-time highs on SPY probably this week, honestly, or probably closer than not, right? But there's one thing that's kind of what I just mentioned on Tesla, actually, that we don't want to see in the broader market. And that's going to be if we do make our way to all-time highs, get some nice candles up here and then break down below and then start losing the exponential moving averages. That's what we don't want to see, because that is exactly what happened on the February move, right? Check this out, right? Kind of pretty much we're like right around, I don't know, here, for instance, right? Remove all the candles after that. We're like around this candle right here, give or take, right? Roughly. All-time highs, nice massive fall, move back up, broke above it, looks pretty solid. And then we did go a little bit higher. Right? Look at this, nice, higher and everything. But then what did? We ended up losing the all-time highs, losing the exponential moving averages, and then we started a substantial drop, to the downside. That was the concern. That was not what you want to be seeing. And I'm not to say this is going to happen, of course. I'm not trying to fear monger by any means, but it's just something that's just kind of worth monitoring, on the back end of things. It's a possibility. It's something, if it happens, if we start seeing those kind of signs, we could be ready for it, right? As opposed to just being completely and utterly kind of, blind-sided, if you will, by that. So again, not saying that's going to happen by any means whatsoever, but it is just something worth mentioning, something just worth watching nonetheless. So let's see. But all in all, guys, that's all I got for you. Options flow on Tesla stock. Let's take a quick peek. Overall, nice bullish flow throughout the day, but the bears are definitely stepping in. Pretty mixed flow, actually. I'm surprised it was 27 million. I do have it specifically filtered to above 100K premiums and sweeps and splits only, so that could be why. But the overall flow was still slightly more bullish than bearish leaning. A little bit of bears came in towards the end of the day, but overall still more bulls than not, including an almost 2 million call option, 455 strike for December 19th when Tesla stock was at 452, which is pretty much where it is right now. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.